Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, fall camp is here. There was an actual honest-to-goodness practice today. I wasn't there, but you were, which is exciting. And it is starting to really feel like, oh my goodness, we're less than a month from the start of the season. Fall camp is here. We are almost through the off season. That's pretty cool.
Yep, had loud blaring music on the PA, had some not pads popping, people popping into blocking sleds for noise, some coaches yelling. It was officially the first day of fall camp on Thursday for the Buckeyes. And it was good to be back out there. It wasn't too hot, which is always a concern for everybody. We all know that. Got to hydrate. They tell us that the entire time. But we got to see about 30 to 45 minutes of practice, 4 periods. So that's stretching, that's a little bit of special teams, and that's some individual drills. You don't get to see a whole bunch, but we got to see enough to get some initial observations, such as, what the offensive line looks like right now. We got some questions answered there that we were wondering about. Who's returning punts, what did the linebackers rep in, which order, and some things like that. Also, kicker Jake Seibert working at cornerback, which was one of the most bizarre things we can just get into this right now because this Jake's now. As I'm thinking through this, I would have loved to have seen a secondary at Ohio State in 2002, Mike Doss and Mike Nugent playing safety. Get rid of Donnie Nicky. You don't need that guy. You just got Mike Nugent and Mike Doss back there just laying the wood on dudes and just hammering people. But this was one of the things that came out of practice, and it's later on our rundown. But people were talking about it. People were concerned about it. Like, what does this mean? Tom, it means that Ryan Day said that Seibert came to them and said that he wanted to bring some different value to the team. That means to me, the kicking for him has been inconsistent his entire time at Ohio State, and that's not going to be what ultimately gets him on the field. And cornerback isn't either, but it's almost like you have to justify your existence at this point.
Well, I mean, he's a reasonably athletic guy, and, if you can contribute in some way, this reminds me a little bit of DeMario McCall last year. And it's a little bit like Rowan McCullough last spring, where Rowan McCullough was kind of the backup long snapper, and they were short of linebackers, and so they said, oh, okay, so then Rowan McCullough was playing linebacker in the spring game. Like, okay, sure, why not? And DeMario McCall in previous years was not, he played running back, he played wide receiver, he played running back again, it was just kind of back and forth and never really got on the field consistently. And they were short on cornerbacks, and he kind of raised his hand and said, yeah, sure, I'll do it, I'll help out. Like, that's just kind of a good teammate thing. And, with as little as we know about the Jake Seibert situation right now, I think it's probably, this is more speculation than anything. I'm not assuming Jake Seibert is going to be in the immediate cornerback rotation this year. But, if you can help out, maybe that's just they need an extra bite. You need guys to practice. So, can he provide some depth there? Can he do what DeMario McCall did last year? And, DeMario McCall didn't start any games. DeMario McCall, I think we saw DeMario McCall against Rutgers and teams like that. And, great. If you can contribute in that way and get on the field and provide some depth and, provide value to the team in some way and contribute, great. That's all you're really looking for. He's not giving up kicking, because I don't want to, I don't want to spoil anything. You and I are going to are doing our 4 burning questions about the special teams on Monday's episode of the morning show, and we're still talking about Jake Seibert there, but maybe he ends up kicking, and if they end up in a spot where they need kicking, Parker Lewis isn't eligible yet. If something happens to Noah Ruggles, well, then maybe he's still contributing a kicker. You don't really know yet, but you're just kind of giving yourself an opportunity to, be able to contribute to the team in some way. I think this is a team that has the opportunity to be a pretty special team, and if you can, he's a kicker, so it's a special team. Get it? Anyway. This has the opportunity to be a very special year for Ohio State, and if you can contribute to that team in some way, great. Like, find a way to do that, and that's kind of the goal. That's what you want to do. You want to be a part of a team that has a chance to do something pretty cool.
You also want a bunch of players on your team who are willing to help out any way they can. And that's what this is. And yeah, I think it's a lot of it is a practice body type of thing. Because I think Ohio State has, 6 corners on scholarship? So they need as many guys as they can to rep that, especially with as much passing as goes on in practice. And just the drilling that goes on where you need bodies to do one-on-ones with. You need enough guys to defend all of these receivers and things like that. So it's just it was an interesting note, and one that seemed like a misprint initially on the roster that everybody was handed out in the morning, because you scan the roster like, is anything new here? Anything new here? And he's like the last dude listed because he's number 96 or whatever, 98. And by the time you get there, you see, Jake Seibert at kicker / cornerback. And you're like, well, no, this is obviously, but yes, getting some repetitions there. And again, don't expect him to be in front of any of the top 6, top 7, top 8, because even the walk-ons that they've got there now have been here for a couple of years. So this is a practice situation, a team first situation, a whatever you need me to do. Where do you need a body? I'm a body. Let's do it. So that is the big story of the day. Tom, let's talk about the offensive line. Got to see some drilling up front, and it's always hectic when you only have about 30 to 40 minutes to watch practice. You're trying to write down as much as you can. So I'm frantically writing down the order in which guys are drilling so that you can get a sense of the 2 deep, 3 deep, even the 4 deep. And so we came into this, we all know the starting 5. It's Paris Johnson, Donovan Jackson, Luke Whippler, Matt Jones, DeJuan Jones. We came into this wondering, where's Enoch Vimahi? Where's Josh Fryer? And Enoch Vimahi was the second team left guard. Josh Fryer was the second team right tackle. We discussed in the last show or in the morning show where they need to split those 2 guys up. They can't have them both at guard, can't have them both at tackle. So they have split them up. The second team left tackle, Tom, Zen Michalski, who we've talked about needing to step up. Second team center, Jacob James. Second team right guard, Trey LaRue. Interesting to see him in there because he's a guy who has battled injuries and just battled depth chart. And any thoughts on that 2 deep as you see it now?
I think that Trey LaRue, of the second team guys, I think Zen Michalski and Trey LaRue are the 2 that are kind of the most interesting to me, because it feels like Enoch Vimahi, Josh Fryer, those were guys who you kind of had penciled in as these are going to be 2 of the next 5. And we obviously talked about Zen Michalski a decent amount, and he's still a little bit of a work in progress. I don't know that if that Josh Fry or Justin Fry, would say right now, hey, I definitely would be 100% comfortable with putting him at starting left tackle if something happened to Paris Johnson. I don't think you're probably there yet, and we'll find out when we talk to Justin Fry in a little bit later this fall. But the fact that he's number 2, okay. I think that validates some things that maybe we had been hearing and sort of anticipating about the fall. Trey LaRue as the second string right guard is really interesting to me, because you've got other guys playing guard right now. They're starting all the freshmen at tackle because you start them at tackle, and if they can work at tackle, great, you've got a tackle. And if not, you kick them inside. So, we'll get to Avery Henry and Tegra Shabola and Carson Hinsman in a little bit, but Trey LaRue at guard is interesting because he's an athletic guy, but he came to Ohio State just very much as a project. He was very much we'll see in 2 years what this guy might have a chance to potentially be in the future. Well, now he's had his 2 years at Ohio State, and now you're kind of seeing, okay, this is where he is right now. For him to be second team, and Ben Christman, who was kind of like a borderline top 100 guy, he was repping third at left guard. That's interesting to me that, potentially Trey LaRue is ahead of Ben Christman at this point. I don't know that that's something that people necessarily would have expected to be the case 12 months ago, because LaRue, as you said, has had some injury issues and came in as a little bit of a project and a little bit of a, shrug emoji. We'll see what we've got in 2 years, kind of thing. For him to be in the second team, and for him to be in the second team is like, oh, good for him. He's obviously made some significant progress. Now, all that said, this is practice one, and I feel like we probably should have started the show with this. This is practice one. Here is what practice one is good for. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Let's see what's changed in a week or 2 weeks. This is very much like the first practice of the spring, where it's like, oh, look at that. They've got this guy, who was listed as a corner, repping at safety, or vice versa. Does that mean anything? Ask again in 2 weeks, and we'll find out. So, we'll see what the order is with some of these guys. If the order remains the same, well, maybe that means something. And if the order changes on some of the stuff, and, Ben Chrisman's repping at second team right guard ahead of LaRue, then, well, that means something else. So this is just this is like a data point. This is a moment in time that's very useful, but it's going to be a lot more useful in a week or two when you've got something to compare it to.
Yeah, this is a 1 month race. Today was the starting blocks. So the race started today. This is where the race started. These were their positions, their pole positions, or what have you. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Trey LaRue listed at 6'7", 315. Pretty good size for a guard. But yeah, that one was interesting to me. I am interested to see if Jacob James can win the job as the backup center instead of, say, Matt Jones, where if something happens to Luke Whippler, does Matt Jones slide in, or do they feel very good about, or good enough about Jacob James during this camp to where they don't want to move Matt Jones? But then does it become a situation of who is the better sixth man? Is it Jacob James? Is it Enoch Vamahi? That sort of thing. So he's going to have some work to do to just establish himself as, no, you don't need to move anybody around. I can just step right in. Grant Toutant, fourth team right tackle right now, not great for him. Got some young guys, Carson Hinsman working there in front of him. But again, who knows what tomorrow, Grant Toutant could be at guard at some point in all of this. And that's why this is where they start. Let's see tomorrow, because we'll get another look tomorrow, get a couple more looks next week. And then the week after that, we get 4 total windows, get an idea of where they go. Tom, as you mentioned, Justin Fry wants the freshman to start out at tackle, so you've got that covered. Punt returners, not a huge surprise to me. The 3 I saw out there, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Emeka Egbuka, and Caleb Brown. Caleb Brown, who I guess came off some surgery recently, but he was full go. He was running routes. He was, back there working as a punt return. Ryan Day said they want to have 4 to 5 guys they're comfortable with back there. They need a couple of sure-handed guys who will catch everything. They would also like a couple of guys who can do something with it after they catch it. Now, he says that Jackson Smith and Jigba is one of those guys who can do something with it afterwards. Honestly, all 3 of these guys that I saw, and I'm not sure if anybody else is catching them, I would put all 3 of these guys in the category of they can do something afterwards. The more important category, I think, is can they catch it? We know Jackson Smith and Jigba can. I don't know if anybody can take that job from him.
I think that this is probably not going to be a year where they change their philosophy on punt returning, because their philosophy on punt returning has, for the last few years, really the entirety of the Ryan Day era, and maybe even a little before that, was the offense is so good that, the advantage of, oh, wow, we got 15 extra yards of field position is not worth any, the risk of, hey, a guy back there that, is 10% likely to break it for a touchdown, but also 5% likely to fumble it. That's not that's not something that they're willing to view as an acceptable trade-off, because I think at this point they look at the offense and go, yeah, we get the ball at midfield, we're probably scoring a touchdown. We get the ball at our own 30, we're probably scoring a touchdown. Get the ball at our own 15, oh boy, we're going to have some more yards before we score a touchdown. That's kind of how you get the sense they view this, and when you look at the last few years, it's like, yeah, that is a defensible position to have. They have been number 1 or close to number 1 by most offensive metrics in a lot of recent years. So I don't think that necessarily changes. And then, you can think back to like KJ Hill. KJ Hill was the punt returner for a while, and they had lots of guys on that team that were maybe more explosive. KJ Hill was a heck of an athlete and broke a bunch of receiving records, and they were not putting a nose tackle back there and just saying catch it and don't get knocked over. It was but they had more explosive athletes, but they didn't really need more explosive athletes. They just needed a guy who they knew 100% was going to catch the ball. It was not going to turn into an adventure. It was just, we can trust you. If it's snowing, if it's raining, if it's windy, it doesn't matter. We can trust you. I feel like that's probably what they're going to look at this year. And it would not shock me if they basically said told Jackson Smith-Njigba, this is your job. All you have to do is go back and fair catch it, and then hand the ball to Luke Whippler, and then go out and line up and look for CJ Stroud to throw you the ball, and then you can score a touchdown then. Don't do it now. Just do it then. Let CJ Stroud play too. That seems only fair.
Don't be a selfish player. Don't be returning all these punts for touchdowns. Do it like we did it back when you play the video games, where you take the punt back to your own one so that you can get 99 yards of offense. That's what you do. That's how you build a team first attitude.
I think Nebraska tried that on special teams at one point last year against Illinois, and it didn't work out very well.
Did it work?
Maybe not exactly that, but yeah, something along those lines.
That's too bad. No, that's Nebraska for you. So I got to see one linebacker drill. It was, interestingly, a 3-linebacker lineup, and basically they were just dropping back in coverage, working against some garbage cans. That's not an insult to players or euphemism. It's just actual garbage cans, okay?
What was Rutgers doing there? I'm sorry, what?
Yes, they were working against bums, the actual homeless people. No. They're working just against air. And so middle linebacker, the number one middle linebacker was Tommy Eichenberg. Number one Will, Steel Chambers. Interestingly, the number one Sam was Taraja Mitchell, which something that he didn't do in the spring. Number two Sam was Palai'e Naoteote. Number two middle linebacker was Cody Simon. Not a huge surprise there. Number two Will was Chip Trainum. And then number three Sam was Reed Carrico. Not a surprise. He worked there in the spring. And number three middle linebacker, freshman Gabe Powers. Number three Will linebacker, freshman CJ Hicks. So that third team is about the same it was in the spring, sort of. I think Carrico is probably the second team Sam, because there are only two at that point. But interesting that the only linebacker drill I get to see is one where they're playing 3 linebackers, and who knows how often they're going to be doing that. This may be let's start working on Nebraska already, or Notre Dame already. Any thoughts here? I think having Eichenberg, number one, picks up where everybody left off. This is where Jim Knowles had said he loves Tommy Eichenberg, does everything. But Cody Simon, this is also where he needs to prove that he needs to win the job. Jim Knowles hasn't seen anything really from him yet, so starting second behind Eichenberg is not a surprise. I'm just wondering how evenly those reps are split right now.
That's going to be interesting to see. And the other thing that's going to be interesting to see is, this is very much one of those, check in on this in 2 weeks. Let's see where people are, because it seems like, just looking at them last year, Simon was the starter for most of the year before he had injury issues, and Eichenberg kind of, Wally pipped him a little bit in that opportunity. It'll be interesting to see, assuming Simon's healthy, assuming Simon stays healthy, can he jump back over Eichenberg and win that again? Because as you said, Jim Knowles hasn't seen him yet. Jim Knowles has really not, he's probably watched some film from last year, but, I don't think any of the linebackers are going to particularly want to go back and look at last year's film. And so, now what does Cody Simon look like? This is one, there are a few spots in the field. This is one where I think I'm most interested to see, okay, August 15th, now who's repping where.
Yeah, because pads don't go on for another couple of days, and full contact doesn't start for, I think, maybe Tuesday, I think is what we decided on our last Buckeye Weekly podcast. And again, when you're watching these and you're trying to make judgments on the way things are, the depth chart based on the way they rep, it's not an exact science. And then I didn't even bother trying to put together any kind of depth chart or 2 deep or 3 deep with the defensive line, because I want to reiterate to people, they're just going to be, they're all playing. Like, they're all starters, co-starters, like, Tyler Friday, Zach Harrison, JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, all of these guys are going to be playing a bunch. And they can be in at any point. They're all going to play in the first quarter. So I don't want to even try to at this point, because, and they were repping weird anyway. There was no real set order. And when they only rep in like threes, it's a 4-man line, but they're repping in threes. So it gets a little wonky with how you're trying to figure things out. But mainly it's like, there's no point in it to me with the defensive line, Tom.
There's not really much point there. You're right. I think there was an interesting note that you had, though, with the 4 guys, Jack Sawyer, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, Caden Curry, and Kenyatta Jackson. They were together during one drill, which your note was, could those be your Jacks? Which, the Jack then eventually turns into the Leo. Those are guys that sort of fit that mold. I think, Jack Sawyer is kind of the guy who I think is probably at the top of that list, so that makes a lot of sense. Javonte Jean-Baptiste is, on the lighter side. He's not, he's more of a weak side defensive end / strong side defensive end kind of betweener profile, rather than, the guy who could play strong side end or could play 3-tech. He's on the lighter side. Caden Curry, I think just the athleticism there, I think they find that very intriguing. Kenyatta Jackson, kind of, I think the same way. I think, I'm with you that you don't want to read too much into anything with the defensive line. That, to me, though, is intriguing.
Yeah, and Kenyatta Jackson is still quite light, but I think anytime you see an Ohio State defensive end wearing 97 like Kenyatta Jackson does, it just catches your eye a little bit. It's one of those things where it's like, he looks like a defensive end to me. It's like, well, it's because of the 97, isn't it? Well, that's beside the point. Yes, it's because of the 97, but he's 6'5", probably 240 at this point. I don't know, but looks like it was interesting to watch Jack Sawyer just kind of doing some coaching up of the freshman there, as Jack Sawyer kind of learns the position his own self, and to see that ownership in practice is one of the other things that I like to see. Who are these leaders? Who are the coaches on the field? That sort of stuff. And it certainly seems like Jack Sawyer is rounding into form there. Watching the safeties, Tom. So again, I'm jotting down what order are they repping in. And this drill was just basically dropping back and high pointing the pass. You've seen it 1,000 times. And so the order of the safeties went Ronnie Hickman, Josh Proctor, Court Williams, Tanner McAllister, Lathan Ransom, Cam Martinez, Kai Stokes, Jalen Johnson, Sonny Styles, Jansen Dunn, and a couple of walk-ons there. But so you've got your top. We know the top 3 of Ronnie Hickman, Josh Proctor, and Tanner McAllister. Interesting to me that Court Williams is in there, and they're not necessarily repping in the proper order, but that it feels to me like Josh Proctor and Court Williams are still attached in some way. Like, are they co-starters? Are they, and again, reading way too much into dropping back and high pointing in football, but we've got to fill time on a podcast, Tom. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but interesting to me that he is still right there with them. Lathan Ransom looked fine, but again, there's nothing physical going on right now, or not too much physical. They will do some, I think, some 7-on-7, 11-on-11 stuff a little bit, but again, there's no hitting or anything like that. So he seemed okay. Sonny Styles, he looks different than everybody else, so that's always interesting. Jansen Dunn backing everybody up, coming up last. Again, he's one that I was very high on last year, was injured. Let's see if he can move up. Any thoughts from the safeties there? Again, there's a bunch there, and I think the staff is happy with that.
And it's a lot of bodies. It's a lot of different guys than were there in the spring or at the end of last season. There's been a lot of turnover at that spot. I mean, you go through the list, and it's kind of you can kind of just say, yeah, sure. I mean, other than Court Williams being ahead of Tanner McAllister, I think if you said here's going to be the first team is going to be Hickman, Proctor, McAllister, the second team is going to be Williams, Ransom, Martinez, and the third team is going to be Stokes, Johnson, Styles. I don't think anyone would look at that and say, oh, there's something that's definitely wrong there. There's no way that's right. So yeah, I think that's probably a decent snapshot of where things stand right now. It's going to be interesting. I mean, you talked about Sonny Styles kind of being a different guy. I'm going to be so interested to see where he is in October, because he's such an athletic, just physical freak, and you know that they know what they have with him, but also he should still be playing high school football. I think they knew what they had with Quinn Ewers last year, but he was supposed to be playing high school football, and so all the talk about him riding in on his white horse to save the season. I mean, like, he's supposed to be playing high school football. Like, if he's playing college football, that's a problem. A guy enrolling a year early, that almost has to be just a complete write-off. And if you get anything beyond that, great. That has to really be a learning year, and I think it's going to be important for people to set some realistic expectations there for him. If he turns into anything more than potential special teams assassin, I think that's an enormous bonus for this team. But I think it's pretty unrealistic to think that he's going to be suddenly a backup, suddenly in the two deep by week one. That would take something that would like really a historically great fall camp, which it just seems like that's probably a little too much to ask. He may be one of those, maybe you see him on special teams this year, you see him in the fourth quarter against Arkansas State, and just start getting some stuff on film, start getting some stuff to teach him with, and then this time next year, you have my permission to start getting excited about Sonny Styles, but I think we got to pump the brakes a little bit there on him. But again, keep an eye. I mean, all of that said, let's see where he is in 2 weeks. I don't expect him to be rocketing up the depth chart, but if there's some kind of substantial change there, well, that'll be interesting to see.
Physically, athletically, he is a unicorn, basically. But is he a newborn? Is he still a little gangly with with the way he's trotting around out there in the prairie, that sort of thing? Looking at this, there's 10 guys listed, and I think it sets up pretty well to a 3 deep, leaving Sonny Styles out. And I wrote on the message board a couple days ago about projections for every single freshman. Like, I can make a case for redshirting every single one of these guys, but the case against redshirting every single one of these guys is that guy going to stay for 5 years? And if you don't think Sonny Styles is going to be staying for 5 years, there's no point in redshirting anybody. But looking at this 3 deep, I can see the third team being Kai Stokes at free safety, Jalen Johnson at strong safety, Jansen Dunn at nickel. Dunn has played some of the cover safety, he's practiced at some of it last year, so there's not much difference between last year's cover safety and this year's nickel. But do they want a corner there? They want that corner skill set, but they don't really have enough corners to give one to the safeties at this point. You're giving Jair Brown or Ryan Turner. I don't know that they want to do that for the third nickel back, because I think they feel pretty good about Cam Martinez and Tanner McAllister. They could see if Jansen Dunn can grow into that or move into a larger role. But it will be interesting also to see, is it Lathan Ransom against Kai Stokes for that second team free safety spot? Because it kind of feels like it based on everybody else. It's a process of elimination, because Court Williams is not a free safety. He's not a nickel. He's basically only a strong safety or maybe eventually a linebacker. So there's a lot of process of elimination here. And that's not always it's rarely the best way to get the best players at each position. It's like, well, you can only play this position, so here you go. Like, it's not ideal.
It's not ideal, but I think you've also seen the downside of we're going to play the 5 best guys. look at the offensive line last year where the 5 best guys were, well, there's 4 tackles, so we're just going to play 4 tackles. And, that worked great at times, and then it was 3rd and 2, and then it didn't work so well. So, there are pros and cons to that, and I know they always want to get the best guys on the field. I can't imagine that. I don't anticipate 3rd string cover safety / nickel to be the deciding factor in this year's team. So they may. I think you want to leave your corners your outside corners at corner. You leave Jair Brand outside. You leave Turner outside. Let them get experience. Let them get reps. Because I don't think the 3rd string corners are going to be necessarily the deciding factor on this year's team either. So let them learn. Let them get better. Let them focus on 23.
Tom, I'm shocked because I remember doing this show with you in 2014, and I was trying to tell you the importance of Cardale Jones, and you're like, listen, I don't think the 3rd string quarterback is going to be deciding anything for this team. I'm like, you don't know that, sir. You don't know that. And for you to say something like that, that's careless. It's dangerous. It's offensive. It's insulting. And I remember I really called you out for that, and I was right to do so.
Well, but that's when I said, yeah, but Ezekiel Elliott's going to run for like 200 yards against, Wisconsin and Alabama and Oregon. And so it's really, you could put anyone at quarterback at that point. And then, and they did. And it worked out fine because he ran for 200 yards. Ohio State, you remember when I said Ohio State minus 56 against Wisconsin, who you got? And you're like, what kind of stupid question is that? And I was like, oh, friend, just you wait. Just you wait.
Good times. Let's jump down to the offensive line because you talked about it a little bit, about having the best 5 and not playing 4 tackles on the field. For the second time, Ryan Day was asked about Donovan Jackson and Matt Jones. Like, basically, do you like having guards at guard? And for the second time, Ryan Day was like, yes, they bring strength, leverage, and power. And the quote was, they're built like guards. That's the same thing he said at Big Ten Media Days. He did try to not backtrack a little today, but also added that, the offensive linemen come in all shapes and sizes. But you can tell he prefers these shapes and sizes for these guys. And strength, leverage, and power, that's almost the perfect description of what you need at guard, rather than, well, we've got the best pass blocking guards in the country.
Yeah, that's something that's a nice thing to have in a guard, but it's not the only thing you need in a guard. And I mean, that's one of those things why Trey LaRue at second team guard jumped out at me, because he was someone who came in and it was kind of like, this is someone with a tackle body. So it's interesting to me that he's the second team at right guard right now. And again, practice 1, okay, settle down, everyone. It's just practice 1. Is he, would he be the 3rd guard in the game? Probably not. I mean, you probably have other guys who are in ahead of him if one of those guards goes down. So, but yeah, it is interesting to me that it feels like, there was the year 2018 where they, like the Malcolm Pridgeon, Demetrius Knox, that offensive line. It just they couldn't quite do what you normally expected from an offensive line at Ohio State. It feels like they learned from that. And then now the 2021 offensive line, it was good. It was a solid offensive line for most of the season. There were certain things they couldn't do that they needed to do. So now they've learned from that, and you're changing back. You're not overcorrecting. You're not going, all 5 guards everywhere. Everyone needs to be a guard because we have to be able to match the ball, and we have to. You're not overcorrecting. But it seems like that's a little bit of a return to normalcy for the offensive line is probably not a bad thing.
All guards this year does not go great. All tackles next year, they just never get it figured out. It's just up. It's not even up and down. It's just down and down and down and down. I want to go to, let's talk about CJ Hicks real quick. Ryan Day talked about him having a full spring, full summer under his belt. He almost looks like one of the guys who's been around for a while. And the fact that he has been around for a while now, like, they don't think of him as a freshman anymore. And I think that's a very good sign. I also think it's interesting that the only person between him and second team will linebacker at this point is Chip Trainum. And Chip Trayanum was a linebacker in high school. He's been a college linebacker as long as CJ Hicks at this point. Now, Chip Trayanum is an older player, has an understanding of what training camp is like, what studying is like, what learning is like. So he has an advantage there. But I don't think the advantage is as great as it was before it was just Trayanum. Like, because in the past, I'm thinking, well, you got Taraji Mitchell there as well. Maybe you've got Cody Simon there. You've got all of these linebackers for two inside linebacker spots. But right now, it looks like the path to playing time is, after one day, again, the caveat, the path to playing time is a lot, smoother, easier, and it may not be easier, but easier than I thought it was going to be for him.
There's fewer guys he has to leapfrog over on the depth chart. That's a good start. If you don't have a fifth-year Taraji Mitchell who's there, who's got a ton of experience and, team captain last year, and has the respect of his teammates and all that kind of stuff. If he's not in the way, then yeah, the path is more clear. One thing I don't think you mentioned there with regard to Trayanum is one difference between him and Hicks, and you said they've got the same amount of linebacker experience in college and all that, but I think the one piece that's a little different is we talk about guys hitting the freshman wall. And, I think you're probably going to see that with CJ Hicks at some point, just physically, just the grind of college football. Well, Chip Trayanum has been a Power 5 running back. You want to talk about a position where you get ground down over the course of the season? He's done that a couple times at Arizona State. He's ridden that ride a couple times in the Pac-12. I think he's probably going to be a little more able to maybe weather that just physical, just how physically taxing it is to be a college football player over the course of a season. That might be one thing in his favor in terms of potentially holding off CJ Hicks. But yeah, I'm not, all the stuff I just said about Sonny Styles, he's one of the 5-star defensive players. All the stuff I just said about him, I'm not saying about CJ Hicks. I don't think CJ. Don't expect CJ Hicks to start day one. That's the kind of thing that kind of gets filed under the people who were like, oh, can Justin Swick steal Craig Krenzel's job in 2002? Like, no, that's not. Just because he's a 5-star doesn't mean he's going to walk in and start day one. But I think CJ Hicks being at least a 25 to 30 snap a game player on defense, I don't know that that's 80% likely to happen this year or anything like that, but I think that's more likely to happen, and probably substantially more likely to happen than Sonny Styles, just because he is a year older. The path to the field is probably a little bit more clear at linebacker, especially if they really do have Taraji Mitchell now just with the Sams. So maybe maybe you're more likely to see Hicks, but Chip Trayanum is yes, Taraji Mitchell's out of the way. It'll be very interesting to see, if Hicks is ahead of Chip Trayanum at some point. I don't know if that tells me more about Hicks or Trayanum, but that's gonna be one of those real notable fall camp revelations if that happens.
Yeah, and I'm not totally convinced Taraji Mitchell is not coming back to the inside. I'll put that out there. Again, one practice, one drill. Like the minute after he left, he could have been playing middle linebacker or will in another drill. So I'm not convinced he's done there yet. Also, I readily admit I am completely ignoring what Chip Trayanum may be doing. What he may end up doing, on the field in camp. Like, he may just shine, and it may click for him, and they may really like what they see, because he is a very rare, unique athlete for that position. So that's going to be one that is interesting to watch. Just that entire inside linebacker Will Mike thing. Watch it play out. So I got two last things I want to talk about. The first I thought was interesting. Ryan Day talked about they have basically separate staffers who aren't necessarily at practice, but they watch the film of practice and evaluate the players with basically no bias as to who those players are, should be, or are thought of. And it's an interesting thing where you almost have like their control group coaches, basically, like or it's, a blind Pepsi challenge type of thing. That's a crazy good timely reference, but where like they're not watching it biased, like, well, Steel Chambers should be playing like this. They just watch it like very, I don't want to say analytical, but they're not taking into account who these players are. They're just taking into account what they're doing. And I think it's a unique, and I don't know that it's actually unique, but it's a good thing to have separate sets of eyes with no preconceived notions. And they're not trying to make excuses for why a player didn't do something. They're just there saying, no, he didn't do it. And then it's up to the position coach to be like, yeah, but I like him more, that sort of thing. It's just interesting to have this just second set of eyes, second set of combatants when it comes to like determining actually how well a player is playing.
Yeah, that was really interesting to me because I think you go through a player's whole career, and start with the recruiting process. And, we hear all the time about coaches who, really kind of stood on the table, banged on the table for, hey, we got to take this guy. And, Luke Fickell with Darren Lee is a very famous example. Luke Fickell really wanted him to take Darren Lee, and Darren Lee camped over and over and over and over again. And, Darren Lee turned into a first-round pick and was a linebacker on the national championship team and a major contributor. And so, that all worked out great. But, what if Darren Lee had not turned out to be something? But Luke Fickell still sees in Darren Lee what he thought, what he thought he could be. And you still see the potential. You still see the, it's like the, the youth sports parents where everyone's convinced that their kid is going to play in the major leagues. It's like, well, statistically, none of you are. But, I know you guys are like, you guys all think the over-under is like 7.5 of the 9 kids out there are going to play for the Yankees at some point. It's like, that's probably not it. But, you have an emotional tie to these guys, and you're inclined to, assume the best and sort of, well, things that don't fit my preconceived notions. I mean, there's a reason. You can sort of set that aside. So to have someone come in from the outside and just take a really just cold, objective look at it is really interesting to me. I'd be interested to know like exactly who those guys are. Are they people who are, I'm assuming these are just kind of like analyst guys or QC guys, or but if you can set aside the personal, there's a difficult Venn diagram to meet in the middle of here where you want to know, like, you really understand really what Jim Knowles wants to do with his defense. If we're talking about guys on defense, really what he's looking for out of his will linebacker or his adjuster position, whatever spot you want to talk about. Really, what is he looking for out of the people there? And then also people who are not quite so attached that they don't, they're not friends with, hey, this is a kid who I know is a really nice guy, and I'm really rooting for him. The way we talk about Cam Babb and how we're really hoping works out well for Cam Babb. That you don't have that kind of like just sort of a little bit of a bias, from a personal, just personally just liking someone. So finding someone who can, both understand the defense and also not have the personal connection to anyone in the building, that's probably a difficult needle to thread, but it is a very interesting idea. And it's one of those things that you hear and it's just like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Everyone should do that. I wonder why not everyone does that.
Yeah, and I don't know how many people do. I think you need them to be cold and heartless. You keep them in a dark room, never let them meet any of the players. Like, they don't interact with anybody. This may even be outsourced to another state or another country. Like, they're not even in the building. And you just tell us what you think, and we'll see if it follows what we think. Tom, the last thing I want to talk about is Julian Fleming. Ryan Day talked about how he went through best offseason as a Buckeye, was named an Iron Buckeye. What is an Iron Buckeye? An Iron Buckeye is just you do everything right during the offseason workouts, everything. You're not late for anything. There's 3 levels. It's like gold, red, and blue, and then the level above that is Iron Buckeye. He was one. Cade Stover was mentioned as another, but it gives us more information about Julian Fleming, the player, the person, the expectations. I know we've been harping on him because so many people are just ready to move on to Marvin Harrison, Emeka Egbuka, Jaden Ballard, what have you. And this is a kid who has dealt with injuries, but has continued to work, continued to fight, not unlike Cam Babb. And maybe he's done it because of seeing Cam Babb do it, the example that has been set before him, the example that's been set before Cam Babb that Cam Babb watched. But it's just good to see Julian Fleming doing everything that is asked, and then and actually more than most teammates. And the other thing that Ryan Day said is there's a correlation there. When you are an Iron Buckeye, the production on the field is commensurate with that. So I don't know what that means for Julian Fleming in this passing game, but it's something to certainly keep in mind, keep an eye out. And then when you do see him lighting some teams up this year, you can think back to the offseason that he put in to make it happen.
Well, I think there's a lot of the off-field stuff and, the stuff that's not necessarily central to what you think of as the main job that goes into playing time and guys being rewarded for doing things the right way. And a lot of that is, you can think of that in terms of like the tight ends, and you have to be able to block to play tight end at Ohio State. If you can't block, like, it's great that you can catch passes, but you can't play if you can't block. Guys who are doing stuff the right way off the field, who also, you're not going to play walk-ons just because they're, putting in the work in the weight room. But, a guy like Julian Fleming, he has all the physical traits. And we've been hearing for years and years about how freakishly athletic he is and just the insane plays that he makes during practice. And he hasn't been able to stay healthy. I think based on everything we've heard from Brian Hartline, from other guys in the wide receiver room, from other guys in the coaching staff, everyone sees that the potential's in there, and it has really just been that he hasn't been able to stay healthy. He's, I think this falls right in line with, no one has had complaints about Julian Fleming. No one has questioned his work ethic in the past. This all kind of falls right in line with all the stuff that makes you a guy who the coaching staff really loves. So I wasn't really surprised to hear that, but I think this is also something that this very much falls in line with, if he's healthy, he's going to have every opportunity given to him to win that starting job and be a major contributor. And maybe is that 500 yards receiving or 600 yards receiving, 700? What is, I don't know what the number is, but to be a major contributor, starter on this team. When, like you said, other people maybe are looking at him as, well, we've seen more explosive stuff from Emeka Egbuka, so Emeka Egbuka has to start over him. Or Marvin Harrison. Everyone's talking about Marvin Harrison, and Marvin Harrison has to start over him. There's no way you can start Julian Fleming and not start Marvin Harrison. I'm expecting Marvin Harrison to start. I'm expecting Emeka Egbuka to get a bunch of snaps, but it does feel like Julian Fleming is going to have every opportunity, assuming he's healthy, to have this be the year that he, finally stay, if he can stay healthy, this is the year you finally, see the Julian Fleming that I think people have been waiting for several years now.
Yeah, I agree. That does it for me. Anything else, Tom, that you wanted to bring up, you wanted to mention?
No, I think we've kind of covered day one. And so, yeah, 48 and a half minutes or so. And it's just day one. So all we have is just a little bit of a data point. So don't read anything into this. Thank you for listening, but don't read anything into this. We'll know a lot more in a week, 2 weeks, and then we'll be able to tell you. Then we'll be able to talk a lot more intelligently about this year's Ohio State team.
Don't hold us to any of this. Don't remember any of it except for the stuff that we specifically told you to remember, to keep in mind. But other than that, just know that all of this is floating. It's malleable. It's in motion. It's all of that. If you're watching on YouTube, please, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and hit the notification bell. You'll be notified when we drop a podcast like this one, and many, many more to come. That will then do it. A reminder to all of you as well, join us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. The site is not fully launched yet. The message board is going strong right now. Free registration right now. Come and join us, talk with us, chat with us. We are there hanging out. I'm literally there 22 hours a day. Much of that is me sleeping, but I do post the Z's. So you know, Like, I'm still contributing. If you want to see how I sleep, you can do so there. But join us, check it out, and we will be launching here shortly. I don't know the exact day, hopefully soon, and it'll be fun times there as well. Tom, Buckeyes tomorrow morning. Who's on the show tomorrow morning?
Well, the show for Friday is Brett Ciancia from Pick Six Previews, talking about the Buckeyes. He is pretty bullish on Ohio State for reasons that you can probably imagine, but it's always nice to hear people who are not from Columbus, who are not Ohio State fans, kind of give their thoughts on Ohio State. And he is very, very, very highly regarded, statistically the most accurate of the preseason magazines over the last 10 years or so. And he has Ohio State right in the national championship hunt. I think he's, kind of Alabama and Ohio State, and then everyone else is sort of where he's got things. But, who's the biggest threat to them in the Big Ten East? Get a little preview of the Notre Dame game. Some of his surprise teams for this season, who were teams that might, exceed expectations or, kind of take that next step above their traditional station in college football life. So lots of fun stuff to talk to Brett about for Friday morning's episode of Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning.
Sounds good. I look forward to it personally. I like that I get an early copy of it. I think that's very nice of you to do. I appreciate that. I'm the only one who gets that copy. 6 p.m., 7, 8 p.m. Nobody else gets it, just me. It's pretty cool. That will then do it for this episode. I want to thank you all for joining us as always, and we will talk to you guys soon.